It was in 2016, around June, when I came back from church and I just fell on my knees and started crying. 2015 was a hectic year because I was going up and down, in and out, trying all sorts of careers because I had left my job the previous year in 2014 in search of my purpose. And 2015 brought so much confusion, so many career opportunities, and nothing seemed to work. And I came to a breaking point in June 2016. I remember crying because at the time I was feeling like I'm unemployed. I don't have direction. I'm trying to conceive. Nothing is happening. Like my life was such a mess. And I was crushed. I remember crying to God. And that was the first ever time I had really taken in everything that was going on in my life, or that wasn't going on in my life, and put it in one place and analyzed it. And I came to a conclusion that I was a failure. It was bad. I went to sleep that evening very early, around 7 o'clock. And I woke up the next morning and I reflected on what happened the previous afternoon as I knelt down and cried to God, seeing myself for the very first time in my life as a failure, thinking about where I was at the time. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine me being unemployed, no direction, no joy. As I was reflecting on the events of the previous day, I remember I made a choice, a decision, that from that day onwards, I will start focusing on what was going right in my life. Because I had realized at that point that I was only focusing on 3 things that were not going right. I had no clue what I wanted for my life. I was unemployed and I wanted a child so bad, and it was just not happening. But I had a whole lot more things going on in my life, but I couldn't see them because these 3 things were clouding my mind so much. But that morning, as I was reflecting, I made a decision that from that day onwards, I'm going to wake up with a grateful heart. I'm going to intentionally find things that I can be grateful for in a day and sing God's praises all day long because He has blessed me. He has been good to me. I know how it feels not to have peace, to feel like you're in a deep, dark hole and there's no way out. And this is why my work is so important. I've found so many people who've asked me, so you wake up and post some messages on social media, and then what? Is that why you quit your job? Just to wake up and post stuff on social media? They just don't understand it. And it is not for them to understand anyway, because that is how our lives are. My journey is only for me to understand. And it may never make sense to you, but accept me for who I am. This is why this is so important to me. For me, is touching lives, helping somebody else get out of a deep, dark hole where they feel there is no way out. I was at some point in my life in that hole, and I had nobody to pull me out because nobody knew. Maybe you are still there. Nobody knows what you're going through. But hopefully through these messages, you can also pull yourself out. And that is why this work is so important to me. And I keep saying, if you feel these messages are getting to a certain area in your heart, deep down in your heart, but you don't know how to use them to pull yourself out, but you feel that they are touching a nerve, I'm offering coaching sessions, divine intervention coaching sessions. And the initial one, it's just 2 hours. And I know that in that 2 hours, you will find your breakthrough. If you're at that point where you feel like you've had it, you are done with feeling sorry for yourself. You are done with this lack of peace. You want more for your life. I want to help you. So today I want to talk to you about the 3 things that are the main peace stealers that I have identified, that I saw in my own journey. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. So the first thing that I realized was that I was focusing on things I didn't have. I was focusing too much on the things that I wanted, and I neglected the things that I already had. You know, I had always wanted a home in Harties. And at the time when I was kneeling down and crying on my coffee table, I was in my house in Harties. Something that once was a dream, and at that point was a reality, but I couldn't see it. My focus was so wrong. I was focusing on the 3 things that I was still praying for, that were depressing me, and failing to see and appreciate what I had already had. And why would God give me some more things to moan about if I couldn't recognize the blessing that He already gave me? So I made a decision that every day, on purpose, I'll start looking at the things that I have. And every time my mind wants to take me back to the 3 things that I was lacking, I would remind myself of the blessings that were once a dream, but now I was living. It was my reality, and I would praise God intentionally all the time in my heart for those things. And the more I kept focusing on things that I was grateful for, the more my attitude started to change, the more my spirit started to lift up from the dark hole that I was in. The second thing that I realized was a peace stealer for me was my philosophy. You know, I felt like everything was happening to me, and I didn't have a choice but to accept everything that was happening to me. I would have negative thoughts, and I would feel like I've got no choice but to accept the negative thoughts. I felt like my internal environment was dependent on my external environment. That was the kind of philosophy that I had. I truly believe that my internal environment, my inner person, had no way to fight against the external environment. Whatever my situation was dishing out, then my inner person just had to obey. If I felt like people were attacking me, I just had to obey and feel sorry for myself. If I felt like God was being unfair, I just felt like my inner person had to obey that feeling and just be discouraged. If I felt like nothing was working out, then on the outside, then my internal person had no control over that but to feel discouraged and demoralized, demotivated, until I realized that my philosophy was wrong. I was blaming everything that was going on in my life on the external influences. But when I recognized the power that I had, number one, over my thoughts, that was a game changer for me. When I realized that I didn't have to think just any thought that pops in my head, that was a game changer for me. I started rejecting thoughts that wanted to steal my peace. I started being able to say, no, I'm not going to allow that. If I couldn't change a negative thought into a positive thought in my head, I would speak it out loud and, reject it out loud. I'll say, no, I will not allow such in my head. I will not allow such in my system. I refuse. I am intelligent. I am beautiful. I can get myself out of this mess. I'm more than capable, I would tell myself. I told myself those things before I even believed them in my heart. But I kept telling myself those things every morning. I kept empowering myself throughout the day. I kept reminding myself that I got myself in this mess and I will be able to get myself out. I'm going to get myself out. I needed a change of attitude, a change of perspective. And in order for me to change my perspective, I listened to other people's stories who went through what I was going through, but were now successful. And the more I listened to them, the more I realized, oh my gosh, maybe I'm in the right track. They suffered as much as I'm suffering, but they've made it. So if I continue to keep a positive attitude and never give up kind of attitude, then maybe I'll get the job that I'm looking for. Maybe I'll start finding direction. Maybe I'll start seeing options on how to improve my attitude. I changed my philosophy. The third thing that I realized as I was reflecting was that the meaning that I put to people's actions or words or situation that happens to me would determine where my life would end up, would determine what my day would be like, would determine whether I have peace or not after experiencing that person, after experiencing that situation. I realized most of the time I operated from a point of fear that people were trying to attack me. People were after my joy. And when I operated from a space of fear, then I would think negatively. I would put a negative meaning to what people would say to me or what people would do to me. Something that I would laugh about yesterday, if the very same person does the very same thing today, I would put a very negative meaning to it, and I would be so angry. I would be so mad. And just like that, my peace would be gone. Without even clearing the meaning with the person who was speaking or who did something. You know, sometimes people do something without even meaning to hurt you. But because you operating from a space of fear, you believe that no, people, they want to hurt me. But sometimes when you're operating from a space of faith, it's easy then for you to say, it's unlike them to do this to me. Maybe something is not right with them today. You make an excuse for the people who are hurting you. You try to find out a different angle from what you would normally see. And when you look at other options, generally you find them. But if you want one meaning to whatever somebody said or did, you will only get that meaning. So those were the 3 peace stealers for me. What I was focusing on, forever focusing on what I was praying for, what I wished to have, and neglecting the things that I already had. The philosophy, what are the beliefs that you have? What are the guiding principles that you have? Do you always believe that people are to blame for what you're going through? Your external environment is responsible? Or do you sometimes take responsibility? Because when you take responsibility, then you're taking a position of power. What is the meaning that you're putting to things that are happening to you? No, I'm born for poverty. No, God created me for suffering. You can change that meaning. Maybe you're going through a suffering because it's a training. You are in a training era for elevation. Maybe you're praying for something, but God needs to make sure that you are prepared for that blessing. So you are suffering like this because you need to be strong for whatever it is that you are praying for. That is a different way of seeing it. That is a different philosophy that you can have. I know how it feels to be in a deep, dark hole that you cannot get out of. But the good thing is that I know how to get out. And this is why I'm offering the divine intervention coaching sessions. It is for that reason, to help you get out of that hole. Because I believe more than anybody that it is possible for you. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach.